today we have with us Chloe Sluis, adult skater and physical therapist. Thank you, Chloe, for joining us. We really appreciate your time.
Thank you for inviting me.
So we wanted to talk to you a little bit about, first off, what made you decide to start skating?
Well, my daughter was ice skating with our homeschool group, and I was sitting on a cold bleacher. And one of her friends' mothers was skating in your class, and my daughter finally gave me permission to learn to skate.
Mhm. And we are so glad that she finally agreed to let you skate
So am I.
because this is how I got my skating mom. So
Yeah.
I'm very partial to you. Now, what age were you when you started skating?
I was 47, almost 48.
A lot of adults are intimidated to start skating. What gave you that courage to say, you know what, I really just want to go for it?
I don't know, in all honesty. I love being active. I hate sitting still. I hate sitting on cold bleachers. And so I figured moving was better than freezing.
Right? Definitely is.
Yes,
Now, when you started skating, kind of walk us through, you started in group classes.
I did learn to, what do we call it? What was it called at Roseville? Just learn to skate, I guess.
Hmm.
Yeah. So just going through those classes, and I liked it. I was a gymnast as a kid, so I do like balance. I think my best thing was a lunge and a spiral, still is to this day. But just the activity and the challenge of it. I think being a physical therapist, balance is super important to everybody, and so skating, I think, can be both terrifying but also enabling for your balance and your flexibility and just freedom of movement.
Hmm. I definitely think it keeps you young. It
It
keeps that
does.
blood flowing. It keeps the balance and the brain and the cognition of everything, all the muscles connecting.
Right.
So now you started, tell us about your first competition.
My first competition was at Adult Nationals in Vegas, and I think I was beta at the time. And that was fun. I did one routine to I Will Skate for Chocolate. I loved that one. That was a lot of fun.
Mhm.
It was terrifying, but it was a lot of fun. The adults in the community are super supportive. I think even my daughter went that time. So that was kind of fun just to have that camaraderie. And it was terrifying because I'm an introvert. I'm okay one on one, but I don't like the spotlight on me. So,
Right. But that being said, you are, I know you are very much a one-on-one type person, but when you get on the ice and it's just you on the ice, you have this amazing way of just kind of, I don't know if you zone everybody else out or what you do, but you go out and you perform so beautifully.
well, thank you.
It's
I don't feel
something,
like I do.
I know, once we got you to get your head up,
Yeah. And bend my knees.
yes, all that fun stuff.
Yes.
So you've been competing for several years now. We see all your beautiful medals in the background.
Yes.
A lot of different events. Tell us a little bit about some of the different events that you do.
I usually, when they started rhythmic skating, I first believe I did the ribbon, and then I learned the ball. And I tried the hoop, but I'm just not good at it, the coordination. But I do love rhythmic ribbon, and I do love rhythmic ball. Let's see, what else do I do? I've done jump and spin. I try to do things that I don't like that my coach might push me into, like footwork, because I'm dyslexic, and doing things alternating is very difficult for me, but it's also a challenge. I do like the more serious things where I don't have to smile as much, as you well know. So I do like artistic, I do like dramatic. And then the character spotlight is a lot of fun. So,
Now, you tend to have when you pick your dramatic music, you tend to have stories behind your music, which I think is so important rather than just picking a piece of music. You have a story to yours. You've had several really heart-wrenching stories. Is there
Well,
anyone to
yeah,
highlight?
both my boys were in Iraq at the same time, and so being able to skate to get the emotions out sometimes really helps. And so I do, I did pick that one, Letters from War. I've done that a few times. I've done Tribute to the Troops at Christmas, and then my mother died of cancer. My sister was fighting cancer, and so I did a Danny Goki song, Tell Your Heart to Beat Again. So those, I think, are probably an outlet for the emotion of you can't really express it any other way, but it's kind of nice to be able to on the ice say, I'm feeling this way, I'm worried, and hey, cancer sucks. So that kind of thing. So that's why I think I choose the themed ones and songs that mean things to me, like Francesca's Battistelli's 100 More Years, because it just talks about love and childhood and just feeling that joy from childhood on. So
I think that's a big thing that kind of gets skipped over a lot of times. People think about the physical side of it and all that, and they forget that it can be that emotional release and it can be that safe place where you go and you just express yourself. So
yeah,
I really love how you've learned to kind of express yourself on the ice.
I wonder why. I had a good teacher.
Yeah, I think you've had several really good ones, So, but I really like your first one the best.
My first coach is still my best coach.
Oh. Now, you've had some scary moments on the ice too when you went to a competition. Tell us about that scary warm up.
Well, I was warming up, and I stepped back around and I saw someone coming toward me faster than I'm comfortable with. And so I stopped, but my foot kept going, and it kind of spun around on the ice and did 7 fractures, 6 on one bone, one on the other side of the ankle, but they were spiral fractures. So that was pretty scary. I heard a very loud pop and thought, oh, I just broke it at the boot level. But we didn't know at that time that there were a lot of fractures on the same bone. I'm usually the one who helps people. I am the physical therapist. So getting helped was hard also because I don't do well with medications at all.
Mhm.
And having those fractures, and just the care that I received, and then I had to fly home without anything but a boot on. That was very painful and very scary. And then I reacted to the medications, and they kind of had to start all over again. But I worked with my ortho, knowing how my injury was my advantage. I knew I had not torn ligaments. I knew it was mainly bone fractures.
Mhm.
And so we worked with each other for about 6 to 8 weeks to make sure I wouldn't need surgery. And then I was pretty much off the ice for 6 months with that, and then discovered a very large ovarian cyst that kept me off the ice for a lot longer. So it probably was almost a year before I felt comfortable getting back. And it took me probably 4 to 5 years to feel like I had regained the skill level that I had left.
Mhm.
However, I think it was a year later, we had a competition, and it was on, my 2 coaches didn't tell me that it was on the same sheet of ice that I fractured my leg on. And so that was pretty scary, but it was very nice to be able to follow through with that after I did my strengthening, to be able to skate again on that sheet of ice. So I think that's one of the things that adults have a harder time with, is that when we break ourselves, I was given the advice not to skate again, but my bones were very strong. It was a freak accident. And so, being a physical therapist, I knew how to rehab myself a little bit better. And I do recommend physical therapy for a lot of um, ice skating injuries. I think they should all be seen, just to give you some basics of what to look for, what not to look for, and how to progress back to the ice. But I did conquer it, and I did place first. So that was kind of cool.
Definitely. And you talk about going back to that same ice and a little bit, it's kind of nerve-wracking getting back on the ice or back onto that same place where you're injured yourself. Were there tips or tricks that you use to kind of say, no, I'm calming myself, I'm okay? Like you said, this was a freak accident. This, I'm okay.
Yeah, a lot of it was just just I do use KT tape as preventative. That kind of gave me a little bit more confidence of knowing that I had like some stability on my leg, but the flexibility with the tape that helped. Just talks with you, the coaches, and a lot of breathing and just saying it's just a sheet of ice. It's just a sheet of ice. But it was very satisfying. I think my ending pose was very close to where I fractured my leg. And so that was good. It was a clean skate that day. So it was really good. And I think that was a confidence booster of, look, I can do this. So that was nice.
That definitely is, how they talk about getting back on the horse and all that. It definitely builds that confidence, I think, when you get that chance to get back out there.
Yeah. And I think it's important. We're going to fall.
Mhm.
Like I said, that was the freak accident. It wasn't, my bones weren't weak. I didn't trip or fall. It was just wrong speed, wrong angle for those fractures. So it wasn't anything that anybody did wrong. It was just one of those fluke things. So and knowing that my bones weren't weak and it wasn't anything I really had done, I think helped a little bit too. And then just practicing over and over and over again. So
Definitely. Now, you touched a little bit on how pretty much any injury, we should get some help from a professional like yourself to make sure that we're not causing more harm and that we're healing properly and doing the right exercises. Can you give us like some ideas of maybe some off ice things that we could be doing for warm ups or cool downs to help that body stay healthy, avoid injuries?
everybody is always into so much static stretching, the hold stretches. But for ice skating and anything that is dynamic or movement oriented, a dynamic warm up should be done, which involves going through very similar motions that you're going to do on the ice. Like I do not get on the ice without warming my hips up, warming up my arms, my spine, my ankles. So there's great programs out there. Signy with FlexiFit is really good. A different kind of edge is good. There's a lot of different programs out there for a dynamic warm up. But basically, you want to think about your hip. Your hip moves in circular motion, diagonal motion, and then just straight forward and back. So you're going to warm up your hips at all times. You want to warm up your quads and your hamstrings. Spirals are a good thing to warm up, just the doing of the spiral motion. I always recommend doing quick motions in the beginning because that's your fast twitch fibers. The slower twitch fibers you can do, say, let's have you do a leg swing. What I always tell people to do is swing back and forth and then hold it and then hold it at the end. But do that dynamic first and then do the static. And if you walk on your toes, walk on your heels. If you are doing jumps, do the fourth jump, half jump, three-quarter jump, full jump. Do jump rope if you have a little bit of a jump rope. If you don't have jump rope, you can jump rope in place and move your arms. Warming up your spine is really important to do. Working on your posture while you're warming up, I think, is super important. And core is another one that I think is important to do more as a cool down, but not as a warm up. So anything that's dynamic, you need to do before you get on that ice and before you even put your skates on. So, and that does warm the muscles up. it gets the blood flowing, but it also helps your muscles say, oh, we're getting ready to jump, we're getting ready to stroke, we're getting ready to spin. And I think that really helps. That has helped me as an adult skater, because I didn't start as a little bitty kid. I started a lot older. And so, and now being at 65, I think that that is more important as you get older. And even for the young kids, they don't warm up, but yet when they fall, they're mad.
Right.
So getting that warm up in, I think, is super important. And then
Nice.
on ice, you can do your stroking and your power pulls, 3 turns, alternating, things like that is another way to warm up before you actually start doing things. So I like both those. And then afterwards, it's always you want to stretch your major muscle groups that you just use, your hips, your thighs, your hamstrings, your back, and your arms, and just a quick stretch. And I have a method that I teach people. It's called 888. So it's like I'm going to use my wrist. I'm going to turn, I can bend back farther than this, but I'm going to bend back this far. I'm going to push against myself for 8. Then I'm going to hold that tension for 8 with no pain. And then I'm slowly going to relax and let it stretch. If you do 1 or 2 of those things at the end of your day, that's great. You can stretch out your hips, all kinds of things the same way. You want to resist the opposite direction that you're stretching. Hold it there gently, no pain, and let it relax. Just do a couple of them. And that's really good, unless you can go to a yoga afterwards, or spend that extra time. But for us adults, I'm heading to work. So I have just a little bit that I can do. And so I will tend to stretch out my back and my hips before I do anything else. So that's something to think about depending on what you have. But if you have to run in and run out, if you're an adult, think about your low back, think about your hips, think about your calves. Those are the 3 that I wouldn't skip.
Right. I think a lot of people, especially adults, they think about stretching their arms and their legs, but they forget the hips and the lower back. And I think that's where a lot of the pain really happens for us. It gets,
Right. When your pelvis is stiff, your hips are stiff, and then your lumbar is stiff. So if your lumbar is stiff, then your pelvis is stiff, and then your hips are stiff. So they all 3 work together. So
thank you for that. That's huge. I appreciate that. Now, off ice, what are some of your favorite things to do off ice before a competition when you're like just getting yourself ready in that zone?
listen to the music as I do a dynamic warm up. I think that's really good. Like when I do my ribbon, I will listen to it and go outside and do the ribbon motions. I can't obviously do some of them, but I can go through the motions and listen to the music for the timing. The same thing with the ball, the same thing with footwork. I think I'm a little bit at a disadvantage because I'm left handed and I'm dyslexic. So sometimes the alternating things are the hardest things for me, and so I have to practice them more. So listening to the music and trying to go through those, even if I walk through it, really helps before a competition. And the dynamic warm up, I will always warm my hips and legs up before I compete.
I like that. You've done a lot of competitions. You've kind of gone all over. You've done with synchro individuals. You've skated with your daughter, different ensemble groups. Is there anything that you're like, nope, I'm done with that? Or maybe there's something that you're like, I really liked that. I want to go do that again.
Yeah, I tried interpretive one time. That sucked. I'm not a big watcher of musicals. I'm not a TV watcher. I listen to a specific range of music and that's it. So interpretive was very hard for me because I just don't have enough musical background. So I did it once. It was on my bucket list. I will never have to do it again. You asked me to do it. I did it once. That's it. My absolute favorite is ribbon and ball. I love those. I think it's easy to feel the music with the ribbon. It's easy to have fun with the ball. I've dropped it a few times on ice. I've got some great shots of me dropping it, but I've got great shots of me catching it. So, but I think my absolute favorite is ribbon. I'm in a skating area where they don't do ISI as much, and ISI does more the rhythmical theater on ice kinds of things. I'm doing USFSA here in Spokane. And so their categories are very limited. Like there's no category for my ball. So fortunately, I'll be doing some ISI this year and I'll get to do my ball again. But my ribbon is dramatic. I can do my tribute things under dramatic as well, or character spotlight. That's a lot of fun. So
Okay.
those I kind of like because I hate acting. And so that puts me out of my comfort zone doing that a little bit. I think ribbon and ball are easy because you get to concentrate on the ribbon and the ball and you don't have to smile as much. So, but I'm working on it.
You're doing a beautiful job. You have a lot of flow to when you do that ribbon one, especially. You've really come a long ways. I have to say,
Yeah,
you
I've
should
been
be very proud of
watching.
yourself.
Thank you. It's my
One
fun.
thing a lot, one thing a lot of adults struggle with is they tend to be more self-critical than the children, and they tend to be very analytical of their moves and expect themselves to have perfection. Is that something you've struggled with? And if so, how have you overcome that?
Because I think because I started so much later,
Mhm.
and I knew that I wasn't, and especially after my fractures, I knew I wasn't going to go for the axle. I knew I wasn't going to go for the higher jumps. Um, I don't I don't think I've struggled with comparing myself to others. I've
Mhm.
just struggled with feeling comfortable through my dyslexia on the different jumps that come and go, like sow cow and the combo jumps that I've been challenged to do, the directional things. So I think that working more on my stuff, I've always focused on that. And because I started later, so there's always going to be people better than me. There's always going to be people that started younger than me. And so in our adult community, being 65, I mean, you're competing with mostly 50 to 70-year olds. And so we're all in the same boat. We're all older. We're not we're not going to the Olympics. And so I think that's always helped me knowing that I just want to play more than compare myself to other people. So that has not been a struggle for me as much as more of the skill acquisition and being dyslexic has been a problem. Skating, I as a physical therapist, skating is really good for you because it challenges your dynamic balance. And as we get older, they do a test on how well you can stand on one leg. So skating is a lot of that, and it's a lot of that weight shift and things like that. So as long as I can skate, I will. Yvonne Dowling, we all know she was in her 90s and still skating, and so I'm hoping that will be me.
I
So
have no doubt that will be you. And I'm very excited to see what programs you decide to do in your 90s.
when I'm 90, yeah, that'll be interesting. Hopefully, I can still do ribbon. Ball, I'm not too sure, but ribbon I probably could do till I was 90.
Right, yeah. So you have some competitions coming up. You're traveling a little bit.
We do have our local competition. It's called the Joe Williams competition. It's a memorial competition here in Spokane. I will be doing that. I think my coach is having me. We're doing because this system is the pre-bronze, bronze, silver, gold, and I'm at the pre-bronze, which is pretty equivalent to Freestyle 3 and ISI. So I'll be doing a ribbon routine for dramatic, and then I think I'm going to do either a pre-bronze free skate or artistic. We haven't kind of decided yet, but it's pretty much the same elements. So
Nice.
that then I'm coming to Florida in October to my home stomping grounds to compete with ISI. And I kind of haven't decided what I'm going to do yet on that. I may try the dreaded footwork again. I'm getting a little better at footwork, so we're doing that. And I'll definitely do ball and ribbon and probably either an artistic or a character spotlight. So haven't decided yet, but I've got until October. So, think
Nice.
about that. But those are
Very
probably the only two I'm going to do, unless they're the local ones. I'll help out with those. We do have one here very close in Coeur d'Alene it's called Spinning Leaves, but it's for lower level skaters. It's more like for people who haven't tested yet, that are either non-testing or pre-bronze or little itty bitties. And so I help with that one. So I may do that one again, maybe a character or something. But I'm limiting it because I have a lot of grandchildren that I need to travel for, two of which are in your house, which I'll be seeing in October. I try to limit it now to maybe two or three. I try to do a couple of our locals because I don't have to go anywhere, and then maybe one ISI one. So
nice. Now, you kind of touched on something for volunteering at competitions. For a lot of adult skaters who maybe don't want to go to competitions quite yet, they haven't felt comfortable, they can still go and see and volunteer because volunteers are always needed. So, what kind of things do you volunteer or how do you help out at these competitions?
Well, so here in the USFSA, they need a medical person always on. So
Mm.
I do that. I'll do our big block of hours for that. So if there's an injury, then I can help. They either always have an MD, a physical therapist, a nurse, somebody, paramedic, somebody on site. And then putting people on ice, I love doing that because I love seeing the competition, the competitors, and you get a chance to say, you've got this, you can do this kind of thing, and be an encouraging role. That's good. I've done running. You can run back and forth with the scores. That's really good. You can hand out medals. You can do all kinds of little things just so you can see it and be a part of it. Help people get dressed. I am safe sport certified. That's something that we have to have here at USFSA. I don't know about ISI, but I did get my background check and things like that because of the medical. So those are some things that you can do just to be helpful in any capacity. Sign people in, take music, that kind of thing.
Mm. All those little things are so important to making every competition run smoothly. And without the right amount of volunteers, that's when things kind of start to fall apart. So I think that's something we forget to remind people. Please volunteer. If you're going to be
Yes.
at the competition, you have an hour in between or something, or if you just don't want to compete and you want to go and help out, there's so many roles you can do.
Right, definitely.
Uh, So we appreciate you when you volunteer and all the times. We
Mhm.
appreciate when you skate, but we really appreciate all that volunteer time you do. So thank you, Chloe.
You're welcome.
All right. Well, that was a lot of information. I really appreciate it all. And do you have anything else that you want to add for us?
Well, I just think some of the things that skaters should have are some basic exercise equipments. And the easiest ones to use are TheraBand and the stretchy bands. I teach a stability exercise that can be translated to on ice, off ice. But having T bands or having any kind of little, I love these things. They're called hedgehogs. They're wonderful. It's like a little mini Bosu ball, but that's really good for like holding your spirals, holding your positions, those kinds of things. I like that. And my other favorite is the one my husband did for me, which is, I don't know if you can see it. It's a beret bar.
Hmm.
So that's, I don't, can you see
Yeah.
it?
Yeah, we can see that.
Yeah, so I love that because that really helps me stretch. This one's adjustable. I lucked out. I found one that was adjustable for me, but those are kinds of things that you can do off ice that are super important to have, T-band, any of that. I'm trying to think. I love my little spinners. I love my yoga mat. I do have this thing called Stealth Core Trainer that's been really good for my core and upper body. So there are some things you can do. You don't need equipment, but if you're going to have any kind of equipment, I would recommend getting like these little mini hedgehogs and T-band, the
Mhm.
stretchy T-band for strengthening, because you can hold that and do all kinds of stuff.
That's
So
fabulous.
yeah.
A lot of, even a beginner skater, I think, can get a lot out of just a little bit of off ice warm up and cool downs and some off ice exercises to kind of incorporate into it.
And there's a lot of good programs out there. Skating Strong. She's a physical therapist. She has a series of videos. She's the one that I found initially, um, having trying to do prevention for my own daughter and having her listen to some other person besides mama. It's great because she's a physical therapist. There are a lot of skaters out there. Signe out of Canada, a different kind of edge. She broke herself also very badly. And so those people have some good dynamic warm-ups, some good on ice and off ice exercises to do. So I think it's important to find something that you like to do
Right.
and to do that. I mean, I set up my little room for me. I do have my treadmill, because that's really good and you can walk in all different directions. My hedgehogs, my T-band, my core, and my bar and stretching traps. Hello there.
Yes. Marshmallow
Hello,
and
Marcelo.
Sammy.
So, yeah,
And
it's important to have some equipment that's inexpensive. And the hedgehogs are inexpensive. T-band, super expensive. You can rig up a bar or you can use anything. Like I have my table here. I can do my spiral stretches here. I can use a chair. You don't have to do expensive anything. So, but I do
right.
recommend the spinners that you guys have. I think they're good for just learning to center yourself going that fast. And then
Yeah.
in both directions, they're super important to have.
Hmm. Yeah. You know, I definitely think the spinners are good, not just for people who are fast spinners, but I mean, even just getting that hip rotation and getting your turns if you're struggling with your three turns or anything like that. There's a lot of benefits to having the spinners. And I've used those hedgehogs that you've got, and they are a little bit off-putting at first if you're not used to that little balance thing, because it's a little bit different, but it is
Very
definitely working all those
different.
muscles. So yeah.
Yeah, and
So
I've actually taught core with this without having. I don't recommend sit-ups ever. Crunches are really bad for the majority of people, especially if any back issues, any hip issues. We do core differently, trying to keep you stable. And if you think about skating, you need that more upright posture kind of core, and so doing that is important. And you can also get on that spinner and hold TheraBand. That'll do your core.
right. Yes, that definitely will.
As
So
well I know. So I think.
oh, okay. Now, do you have any future goals for your skating? I know you've hit a lot of goals when you hit freestyle one and when you got that 1 foot spin and different things. Do you have any future goals that you're like, that's on my bucket list?
Yeah, my bucket list is to kind of get that back spin by itself and the change foot spin consistent, as well as because I'm lefty and I skate right, I've been working a lot on skating left. And so that's kind of what we've been working on the last probably 6 months is turning and going the opposite directions. And I think that's good for anybody. It's very awkward. It's like I'm beginning to skate again, but alternating things because of my dyslexia, I think are super important for my brain.
Yeah.
So that's what my goals are, is to get those spins better. Um, really jumper. I'm not really a jumper, but I think spins are good. Spirals, things like that. But that's mainly it. Just getting the opposite directions and alternating directions for coordination.
We wish you all the best of luck in your new season of skating, and I can't wait to see what programs you come up with when you get to Florida. So
All right.
thank you so much for your time. and you have a wonderful day. Happy skating.
Thank you. Happy skating to you.